Hello there, it's Jennifer McCreath. It is Monday, April 4th, 2011. This is actually the second video I have shot tonight. I look awful, but what else is new? I always seem to pick up the camera kind of towards the end of the day when I'm getting ready to wind down and go to bed, so I don't have all my makeup on. And anyway, the last video was a discussion about my airport customs issue. Tonight I want to talk about the upcoming federal election here in Canada, which I believe is election number 4 in 5 years, 7 years, I can't remember. But we have a lot of elections here. The Canadian government parliamentary system is based on the British system, and it's quite different from the US system where you elect a president and then separately elect, I guess, House of Representatives or whatever you call it there. Here we simply elect members of Parliament and based on geographic jurisdictions. And trivia now, I think there's 305 electoral districts federally in Canada, and whichever party elects the most local members of Parliament will be declared the government. This can be tricky when you have several political parties fielding candidates. In recent elections, we have had what's known as a minority parliament, which means the party that has the most members of Parliament has less than the required amount for a majority, meaning 152 or less. That makes it tricky to conduct business because you still have a leader known as the Prime Minister, you still have a government, but they essentially need to cooperate with at least one other group, party, or individual so that they can pass, I guess, confidence motions. And I actually think it works out well because it requires everyone to work together and reach consensus instead of having, I guess, extreme policies that are either one way or the other. This forces consensus and team building. Anyway, ironically enough, our latest Prime Minister, Mr. Stephen Harper, has only had the minority, and he's been forced to get along with others, but he hasn't really done a good job. He's acted more like a dictator, and I think the other parties finally said enough of this stuff. It's time to pull the plug on this government and ask Canadians to go back to the polls and try again to elect another government. My biggest issue at the federal level, of course, would be human rights. Sure, there are provincial human rights codes, but at the federal level there's a Canadian Human Rights Act and there's a Charter of Rights and Freedom. Gender identity and gender expression is not in there, any of them. And in fact, there was a bill passed through the House with the idea that they would be added to the Human Rights Code. Unfortunately, I guess, again, it gets into a 101 of Canadian politics. Once the House of Commons does their work, the senators, the second house, takes a look at the bills. Unlike the United States, our senators are not elected by the public. They are patronage appointments by prime ministers. So essentially what we have is a Senate filled with patronage appointments of so it's going to take a long time to get turnover in your Senate so that you could potentially have a Senate that reflects the public opinion on the government. And the concept of transgender rights tends to lean more on the left-wing side of the things. Ironically enough, the right-wingers in the House who hold the minority parliament tried to vote it down, but there was enough votes from the left and the middle and the independents to get the bill through. But then it gets to the Senate that's filled with right-wingers, and they stalled on it. They did not process the bill at all. Now that an election is called, all open bills are dead, which is really sad. So much for democracy. The people who were elected by Canadians made this decision, and the Senate, who's filled with patronage appointments, shut it down. I think it's time to think about Senate reform. And for those of you who care about human rights, it's time to think seriously about Stephen Harper and his leadership, not just human rights, but democracy. This guy has broken a lot of promises. He's been unethical. He he and his team have told lies. They've even broken the law. And usually when a member of the government commits some sort of an offense, they resign in disgrace or shame. Not in this case. This government, they don't care. And they're so arrogant about it. They have been committed of doing something known as contempt of Parliament. I'm not exactly sure what that means from a legal standpoint, but I know it means that rules were broken and the public was lied to, and this government should be feeling shamed and disgraced. We as Canadians should be disgusted, and the rest of the world's starting to take notice. There's been some press in Australia criticizing Canada for losing our democracy. We've been criticized by Amnesty International for our failure to uphold our so-called reputation as being human rights supporters. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for, but I'm going to say please think very carefully about what a Stephen Harper-led government will do to this country. I guess another aside, I was actually considering running for Parliament. It kind of hit home when Bill 6A got up into the House and talked about the transgender rights bill, and he said, isn't it unfortunate that there's no trans people in the House here to provide personal anecdotes and accounts of the discrimination they face? Why is it that we don't have trans people in politics? Heck, why don't we have very many LGBT politicians? 10% of our population is LGBT, less than 1% are elected representatives. It's a sign that there's a lot of work to do. There's still phobias out there. There's people that are afraid of us. They think that we are not capable, competent people, that we cannot contribute to society. They think that we don't care about our country. I wanted to put my name on the ballot and say, we do care. We are bright, capable, competent people. We want to help make this country better. We want to do better than Stephen Harper and what he's come up with. I actually was in consultation with a small political party, the Animal Alliance Environment Voters Party of Canada, one of 19 officially registered political parties at the federal level. It's no secret that I love animals and I care about the environment. I'm not necessarily a world leader in these things, and perhaps that might not necessarily make me the best candidate for them, but as a small party that's looking to grow, I thought it would be a great opportunity to do something for the environment and for the animals, which I love so much, as well as put a face to transsexualism. I would not be running on any type of trans platform. Just by nature of doing it would send the message, look, this isn't just a transsexual, this is a person who cares for the country who just happens to be transsexual. Anyway, there were some logistical issues with regards to doing that, specifically, given that I am currently a provincial civil servant, running in the election would have put me at a conflict of interest, would have forced me to have to take either an unpaid leave of absence from work or resign outright, and that just wasn't going to happen because I need to pay the rent and buy the food, and it's the only job I've got. It's the only job offer I've had in a couple of years, so there's no way I was going to give that up, especially after taking some time off for surgery. But it was an eye-opener for me. I asked for some feedback among my friends, my community, the trans community, animal rights community, and there was a lot of support. There were a few people that didn't like the idea, but generally a lot of support. People said, Jennifer, yeah, I think you could do a good job. I think you'd make a great politician. I don't know about that. I'm not really sure it's a job I would ever want, but it's hard to say where we're going to go in the future. It's definitely something I will keep my mind open to. Someone said, why don't you join one of the major parties? Well, I'm not really sure that you take the bigger the party, the more complex the platform, and which means there's going to be some stuff in everybody's book that you don't like. But I don't know, maybe somewhere down the road, but for now I'm not going to declare any political stripes. My goal is to work with whoever gets elected to make sure they understand trans issues and human rights. So I don't want to alienate myself from any particular party, other than Stephen Harper, of course, because I don't think he deserves to be back as Prime Minister. Anyway, we're hitting the 10-minute mark on the video, so I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much for watching.